Howdy folks, welcome back to Boondockery. I'm going to go ahead and start off today's video by telling you I am a whooped puppy. I have been run ragged. I've been taking postgraduate classes for a while now. I've got a month to go into classes, and on top of everything else I've got going on in my life, including trying to get some videos done, I've been trying to get myself in my education, make myself more gooder. But I am whooped. And so if I'm a little frazzled with this one, it's been a very long day, and this is the very, very end of it. And hopefully I'll be able to get through this okay without too many mishaps. The purpose for this video is to introduce everyone to a new piece of kit that I procured. And it's a product by Esbit. And I've come to learn that Esbit isn't exactly really into catchy titles for their products. This product is the Esbit 1100 milliliter rectangular solid fuel stove and cook set with lid and mesh carry bag. It has a product number too, but I'm not going to read that to you. But anyway, I understand that there are a lot of people that watch my videos that really like all of the extra stuff I add to my videos. All the history, all the background, the development, and all that good stuff of what I review and what I talk about. And I'm very grateful for that. However, there are a few other people that are part of the short attention span theater group that they want a 3 to 7 minute video, just giving them the meat of the matter and being done with it. The maximum attention span is 15 minutes. And if you're one of those types of people, well, let me give you a little word of advice. Any of my videos, go ahead, fast forward to at least halfway to 3/4 of the way to the end, and that's where I start giving the wrap up. If you're not interested in any of the history, development, backstories, any interesting little tidbits like that, that's okay. It's not everyone's cup of tea. Just go ahead and fast forward to the end of the video, and you'll get what you need out of it. And that way, everyone that does enjoy my long, drug out videos, well, they can get what they like too. Just a second, we'll go ahead and get started. Now, the genesis of this video actually goes back almost 80 years. And that was the introduction of mess kits to the world, which was done primarily due to World War II. This is my mess kit that I was issued when I was in the United States Army. It's actually dated 1952. As a matter of fact, I'll bring it up closer so you can see it. I certainly hope that was in focus enough for you to see it. It just simply has US, the manufacturer, and the date of manufacturing on here. Just about every single military force on the planet that participated in World War II had their own variations of the mess kit. The US consisted of this basic mess kit, breaks down to 2 components. One's divided, one's like a little fry pan or skillet that's pretty easily slid into position, so you can go through your chow line and get whatever food you want, and you still had a hand free to where you could fill up your canteen cup with whatever type of liquid they had, usually hot Joe. Now, the British also had their version, and it also originated, the design originated in World War II. And it consisted of 2 almost identical in design little pans. One's just a smaller scale than the other, and they neatly nested inside one another. And the reason I'm starting off with this is simply because everything about today's video started with the purchase of this. I purchased this in Cambridge, England. It was a very small Army Navy surplus store. It's on Regent Street, right across from the university. And when I purchased this, I purchased the mess kit, which it is not official government issue because it doesn't have the broadhead or anything on it. It's a civilian reproduction, and that's perfectly fine. It's almost identical to the military issue. I also purchased a Canteen Cup, canteen, and the steel Canteen Cup. And with that, I also purchased this solid fuel stove. Now, you've probably seen me use this in other videos, and I absolutely love this design. These three items is pretty much what started back in 2009. Everything is going to go into this video. Let me give you a closer look on how this sets up and as to why I think this is such a cool setup. Now I'm going to go ahead and start off with the Canteen Cup. The stove is very similar to the Esbit solid fuel folding camp stove. It has this really nice top plate that goes on the top, which fits the steel Canteen Cup base perfectly. Perfectly fits in there. Now, the reason that this is such an innovation. Most Canteen Cups, when they set on any type of stove whatsoever, you have heat going to the very bottom of the Canteen Cup, and then it escapes all the way around it, no matter what. When I was in the military, if you had any type of camp stove, you usually purchased it yourself. The only one that I was aware that they had was called the platoon stove or the ranger stove, and it was a white gas stove, very similar to like a single burner Coleman stove. We never had those. I knew people that had them. They took them to the field, but we were never issued those. So we had to come up with our own heating source. Every single one of them had the same problem in that the Canteen Cup got heat on the bottom and escaped up the side. Now, what this design does is it allows the Canteen Cup to rest in an area that's recessed that holds heat in. It holds heat in. Heat rises. And what will happen is when the fuel tab is burning, for a little while that heat is trapped here before it comes up and out. So therefore it's locking in heat to the bottom of the Canteen Cup for a longer period of time, making this more fuel efficient. Also, there's just a little bit area right up through here that actually is in constant contact with the heat, and the small little gaps that are remaining around the Canteen Cup emits slow heat to rise up the tapered edges. That enables more heat to be in contact with the steel cup for a longer period of time. When using the same stove with the rectangular mess tins, you have a very similar effect. The mess tin sits on the stove. That stove's recessed area, again, is holding more heat in for a longer period of time before it escapes out the front and the back. The mess tins, because they have a much larger area on the bottom, actually has contact with the direct heat for a longer period of time, allowing much higher fuel efficiency that you can get even with the Canteen Cup that was specifically designed for the stove. I did a little time tests, and I realized that when I boiled water. In this, it took a substantially longer amount of time to boil water than when I boiled the same amount of water in these tins. Well, there was a little bit of a drawback with these tins, and that there's no lid. Not a problem. You take the larger mess tin and you set it right on top. That right there. And one of the things, once it does start coming up to heat, the condensation will get up there. Sometimes you get a little drift. Sometimes it might even fall off. I don't know. But one thing you can do to remedy that, put a little bit of water in here, something heavy, and that'll hold that on there really good and snug, and you will get a good rolling boil very quickly, making this much more fuel efficient. Now I can actually even make this more fuel efficient because wind always has a very strong effect on solid fuel when it's burning. So I just made some nice heavy duty aluminum foil windshields that just clip right in there like that. Drop this down on top of there. And now we have a stove that is locking in as much heat as can possibly lock in, and only having the air that comes up to the bottom to feed the flames, making it much more fuel efficient. Now, as time progressed, I was very impressed with this. Through my reenacting experience, I knew that there were people, tinsmiths, that if I could commission them, they could actually make lids for these. I had a design all drawn up, and I never got around to doing it. And life happens, life gets in the way, and it got tucked in a corner of one of my cabinets, and that idea sort of died out. It is an idea that I still would like to pursue, and the design I have would actually be a very good design, and that it could actually also provide extra containers, because it would be one of the old 18th century style of lids that the lip goes down inside. And by removing the lid, you would also have a recessed area in there that you could actually use as another container. But that never happened. It still could though. Now, time went by, I just happened to see in a surplus catalog a Dutch stainless steel version of pretty much the same kit. It's a little heavier, but definitely much more robust. It has a rolled lip where this does not. This is just a flat aluminum lip, and it just makes it a little more durable. I like this design very much, and it has everything going for it that I like with the other, just a little more robust. If you're concerned about weight, this one is substantially heavier than the aluminum, and that would be a consideration if you wind up wanting to purchase one of these yourself. I'd recommend them for the cost and the versatility. I think it's great. Fast forward to probably, I'd say maybe 8 months ago, I happened to see these advertised, manufactured by Trangia. And I love Trangia products. There is a small container with a lid and a large mess tin, again with a lid. But you can already see one of the issues I have with these tins. They work fantastic. However, it's just a classic basic tin configuration, and since the lips or the edges are not rolled, it makes it a little bit of a challenge to get on and off. And these are pristine. There's no dents or anything else like that, and if one were to develop one way or the other, that would make putting these on and taking them off even more of a challenge. So the wheels started turning again and again. The idea I had has not yet come to fruition, but it very well could. I plan on putting a handle on the top of this with a loose ring, and if I design it properly, I can also put one of the ring locks at the top so it will stay upright. So therefore, I would be able to lift the lid off by the handle as opposed to trying to manhandle, putting it on, taking it off like this. And that's another nice thing, is if I did have a handle when I'm cooking with them, I could just rest them on there and I wouldn't necessarily have to force it all the way down, which would cause a problem with the pressure building up if you're boiling them. If you're laying it loose on there, any of the steam can shoot out the sides and you'd be able to take the handle and lift it off. But as far as mess tins go, I really like these. They work very well, and I have used them in multiple capacities. I've used the large one, but I haven't really cooked anything with the small. I like to put extra things in here, ingredients for meals, seasonings, spices, things like that. And another nice thing about the Trangia mess tins is that they do nest. They don't nest great because of the height of the smaller tin. When it's inside the larger tin with the handle, it will not seat all the way, but it comes very close. There we go. And we can lock it in. As you can see, because it doesn't seat all the way, the handle sticks up just a little bit. On both of these, there is a very nice insulated, rubberized handle guard that is actually removable. It just pops right off. You take the handle off, and you can pop those right off. And that was sort of stuck on there, but they can remove. And it's nice when you're working around a fire. These things will melt if you don't remove them and you have them on a fire. If you're using a stove, that will be able to facilitate you being able to put them in a position to where that doesn't get to the flame. If you are a fan of Trangia products, like I am, this might be a little something that you want to add to your cooking kit. And either one of these used by themselves, it's fantastic. It's a container. These fit very, very well in pockets of packs. At the top of my pack, most of my packs will have a top pouch of some type of a pocket on it. And in that, all of these fit in there very nicely. And if you're hiking and you want to stop to take a break to make yourself some food, that's an ideal place to put it. Someplace on the exterior in a pocket to where you can get to them. A lot of the kidney-shaped mess kits I've seen like that, they are not as well designed as these rectangular ones, in my humble opinion. The biggest reason is because the amount of surface area that actually has contact with your heat source. It's much smaller. The bulk of your container is actually sidewalls that go very high, just like the Canteen Cup. So I favor this design quite a bit. So I have the original British, the copy that is Dutch, and the Trangia mess tins, all of which definitely in the same family of mess tins. Now that is my backstory to the Esbit cook system. Now, for all of you that toughed it out, you endured the marathon of backstories and trivia, you are awesome. And for those of you that are short attention span theater folks, now's your time to see this thing come out of the box. Now, I mentioned in one of my videos a while back that I didn't really like the unboxing thing, and I still am with that in the way that I have seen them, and that they take them out of the box, they show it to you, and without even using it, they give an opinion as to whether or not it's a quality product, I'm not going to do that. This is not a review. This is an introduction. So what you see is what I see. And when I use this, you're going to see that too. And as I use it frequently, you will see and hear my opinions on this particular product. It comes with a set of instructions, I believe. It looks more like a lot of warranty information. Not really any instructions per se. It does have a small little something there. As you can see, it's very basic. It does not take a rocket scientist to figure this stove out. This is very straightforward, very simple, but a very good design from first appearances. Comes with, just like all their products that I have purchased, they all come with a nice mesh bag. And it does have a nice little bag system, which it's primarily there for shipping, but you have seen all of my mess kits that have come with these. I use these all the time. I will keep these until there's nothing left to be kept, and it helps keeps them clean. If I'm carrying fuel in these, it definitely keeps the fuel separate from the actual cooking vessel, and it does everything that I need it to do to protect the stove and the contents. Now, like I said, it's three primary components here. This is the stove. You have the cook pot with a folding handle. The cook pot is, well, all of the components are hard anodized aluminum. The cook pot is nicely graduated. The graduations can be seen easily inside and out. It has a locking handle, locks upward, locks downward, and activates by squeezing the handles together. The handle does have a completely wrapped rubber heat guard for the handle. It does not remove like the transient ones do. Comes with a lid, and the lid has a nice resting lip in the top of the cook pot. Keeps it from sliding off. The handle does not have one of those little locking positions, but it's so tightly riveted on that it definitely holds into position as it should. It's very easy to put the lid off and on. The stove has a little basin in the center for the heat tab, and it is vented only on the sides. There's no ventilations on the bottom, which is sort of interesting. A lot of the solid fuel stoves I have ventilations in the bottom to allow that airflow to come up and through. There's one major opening, so you could insert additional heat tabs or light the one you have if you have a long stemmed lighter, or you're using longer hurricane or storm matches. Has nice little rubberized feet on here. Now, I have had problems with mine in the past in that those melt, and if they do melt, I can replace those with little nuts and bolts. Stove nestles very nicely in a recessed section on the stove, and as you can see, it does not slide off, which is good. This does every single thing that I loved about these British style mess tins, in that you have all of this surface area that is receiving the direct heat. And with the stove design, it probably could have gone down a little bit further before the vents were there to have a little bit of a heat trap in there to hold that heat in just a little bit more. But, you know, it is what it is, and the ventilations allow that heat and the gases from the solid fuels to escape. Now, by the size of this, I could see that you may very easily be able to use other fuel sources inside of it. Again, anything that you use in this other than the heat tabs is going to produce greater heat around here onto the metal of the stove, which very easily can affect these little plastic feet. So something to keep in mind if you want to try and experiment wood fire in here. By nature of there not being any air vents on the bottom, don't think that would probably be a very effective idea. But this looks like it is a 100% dedicated solid fuel stove. I'm going to try my little Red Bull alcohol stove that I made. The Vargo Ultralight Mini is low enough. It might actually work in this, and it would not cause any substantial heat on the stove itself to be a threat to melt the little legs. That is the new Esbit solid fuel stove cook set. I think it's pretty swell, and I'm going to compare it with one of my other Esbit solid fuel stoves, and we'll see for ourselves if it's any more effective than the old style. Well, folks, what I have set up here is each one of the stoves has one 14 gram, which is a ½ ounce Esbit solid fuel tab in there. And in each one of the cook pots, there's 12 ounces of water. What I'm going to do is I'm going to light the heat tabs, put the cook pots with the water on the stoves, leave the lid off, so that way you can see for yourself which one begins to boil first, or if they both begin to boil at the same time. Now, most solid fuel tabs will have some soot that develops, and that's okay. And we're just going to go ahead and take a few minutes and see which one begins to boil first. Now, while those are heating up, I can already see the little ripples going on the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and go over the specifications on the new Esbit 1,100 milliliter rectangular solid fuel stove and cook set with lid and mesh carry bag. Very catchy title. Of course, the capacity is 1.1 liter. It's made of ultralight aluminum. It's anodized. It has a steel pot handle with a rubberized grip. It is graduated. The stove utilizes one 27 gram tab or two 14 gram tabs. For the purpose of this test, I have one 14 gram tab in there, which should be sufficient. I'm already starting to see little bubbles come up here, just a few there. The kit includes a lid, a pot, a stove, a mesh carry bag, and it has a 2-year limited warranty. The dimensions are 7.4 inches by 5.8 inches by 2.8 inches, or 18.7 centimeters by 14.7 centimeters by 7.2 centimeters. It weighs 13.3 ounces or 375 grams without fuel tabs. I purchased mine from Amazon for $53.99, which is basically 38 pound 88 pence and 44.94 euro. That is the specifications. I'm already seeing a lot of steam coming up here, not so much on your basic cylindrical design. And this is really getting active really quick. And as you can see, not so much on the other. You're definitely able to see inside the rectangular one easier than the cylindrical one. I'm noticing a lot of flame coming out through the vent holes on the cylindrical design. Not so much at all, just a couple little jets shooting out here occasionally. But this is fairly consistent. That means all of that heat that's coming out of the side is basically wasted. I'm not seeing just a teeniest little bit of steam coming off the surface of the water here. And you can already see that there's a lot of steam coming off his. I did not put a timer out, but I do not believe this is going to be any substantial time whatsoever. And basically, you're watching it happen as it happens. The cylindrical design, the more traditional cookpot design, it's a time-tested, user-approved base design, and I personally don't think they fit real well in your pack. No matter what size they are, there's not a whole lot of places in your pack which is specifically designed for a cylinder or a can. Just about any place in my pack, I can find something for something rectangular, like these rectangular mess tin designs. And for that matter, I mean, even your old-fashioned US mess tin design, it's a lot easier to find a location for. As you can see, the Esbit design is pretty close to the same amount of square inches as the Trangia, and this was my British mess tin, and very similar, if not it's off by about a half an inch in this direction. Okay, it's already starting to boil a little bit, and so anything that the British military utilized to carry this mess tin in could definitely accommodate the Esbit. As a matter of fact, they are roughly even the same height, which is excellent. As you can see, it is boiling. It's not at a rolling boil yet, but it is definitely boiling. Just this one here, it's just now starting to get some decent steam activating. This will take probably a couple more minutes before it's to the point as this. So as you can see, through my experience that I had with those rectangular mess tins, boiling water was just so much faster. When you want to cook, I believe that I can actually find a way to experiment, even with solid fuel tabs, to actually cook with this. If I were to break a fuel tab up into smaller pieces and put them going around on the tin, on the stove, in different locations as they're burning, and put this on so there's not one hot spot in the center, I could actually probably cook in this. Or even with the heat tab in the center with the one hot spot, since the flame is going all over the bottom of this cook pot. If I'm doing something frying, something like that, where I'm constantly moving the food inside the cook pot, I would be able to cook even with the solid fuel tabs. You can't really cook with this style of pot with a solid fuel tab. It's just very inconvenient. This small vessel, I think this is only supposed to hold 16 ounces maximum, and so there's not a whole lot of cooking potential with this. This one is actually geared for between 1 and 2 people to be able to accommodate their cooking needs or what have you, whether it's boiling water or actually cooking. I really truly believe that I can actually cook with this, whereas this one not so much. Both Esbit designs, these are both new designs. This is an updated design of one that I've had for many, many years. And the original one I purchased when I was with my good buddy John Walsh. And we both had the same problems with the plastic feet melting off. We both did the same hack that John came up with the nuts and bolts for the feet. And John actually purchased this for me as a replacement. And so very grateful for that. It's great to have great friends. And this right here, by nature of it only being the 14 gram heat tab, I do not believe that we're going to get much more of a boil with that than this. It will just continue to heat up and evaporate. Let's see how much of the heat tab is left. Oh, that's a significant amount of heat tab still remaining. That's probably taking it down. There's about 1/4 of the heat tab left. And where I'm just now starting to hear this one start to make a little bit of that noise just before the boil, seeing some of the little bubbles starting to form and to surface. The water's quivering just a little bit more. I'm really curious if that's actually going to come to a boil without the lid on before the heat tab burns out. As you saw, I lit both of the heat tabs pretty much at the same time, just seconds apart from one another. And yeah, it's just I don't think this is actually going to come to a boil. We'll see. I might be eating my words. But this one, the heat tab has gotten to the point now to where you can see it's not affecting much change in the water. It's actually, the boiling is actually not going on that much right now. But I would say that was definitely 3 to 4 minutes of boil time. Definitely more than sufficient for ramen. If you had the lid on it, it definitely would have begun to boil much faster and would have been able to boil much longer. And if you use the two 14 gram heat tabs, as is suggested by the literature that came with the stove, it would definitely be boiling for a good while longer. I personally like to add another heat tab once the original heat tab gets to the point that this one did, about 1/4 of the burn time left, and then that will bring the burn time up again, boiling again for a longer period of time. Whatever the amount of time was, it took the heat tab to go from full tab down to 1/4. That's the same amount of time you'll have in addition if you put the second heat tab in once the first heat tab gets down to 1/4 burn. This is finally starting to boil the tiniest little bit. Well, I think that this experiment is called done. I'm going to go ahead and put this stuff away, and I'll be right back. Before I wrap things up, one little tidbit, one little feature that I neglected to mention with this particular set is this little bracket. It's a resting bracket for the lid. It allows the lid to rest right there while you're cooking, doing whatever you need to do, checking on things, so that way you do not have to lay your lid on the ground, potentially getting any type of dirt or debris inside your cook pot while you're cooking. That is pretty cool. And I also noticed when I was putting things away is that the other cook set that I had, the small cylindrical one, the new design, also incorporates this mounting bracket or resting bracket as well. Well, folks, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I have been itching to break this thing out and to show it off ever since I've got it. I've had it for almost a month now, and it's just, timing is everything. But I was glad I was able to get this out and show it to everyone today, and to reminisce about as to why I came to look at this particular rectangular cook set as something significant and something that I would probably want to add to my kit. I still absolutely love the British design, even with the antiquated solid fuel stove, no lids and things like that, and it's still a fantastic cook set in its own right. This one, on the other hand, everything you need right there. And I can't wait to put this through its paces, and I can't wait till you get a chance to see me put it through its paces. I've got a lot of wild camps planned starting next month, starting in June, and they're going to be significant. They're going to be multi-day, and every day that I'm out, I'm going to be doing different things, trying different things, and trying out different pieces of kit, and I'm going to bring you along with me. And good, bad, wonderful, it doesn't matter. Anything that goes on, you're going to see it. If I try out pieces of kit, they fail me, you're going to see it, and you're going to see why. If I try out pieces of kit and they work out fantastic, you're going to see it, and you're going to see why. Folks, thank you so very much for joining me today. I'll see you next time.